Welcome back to another episode of Be Our Guest here on Musical Theater Radio. I am your host, as always, Jean-Paul Yovanov. Let me ask you, listeners, do you ever feel you just need to sing some great musical theater pieces, but just don't have a place to do it outside of your bathroom? Well, if you are in Toronto, our next guest hosts a monthly musical theater open mic party for performers of all levels and experience and get to sing with live musicians. To tell us more about the Singular Sensation Musical Theater Open Mic Party, I'd like to welcome to the program Jeni Walls. Jeni, hello.
That was the best intro ever. Can I license that and use it everywhere? That was amazing.
It is
Thank
all
you.
yours.
Amazing.
And that's why I'm poor and have no money, because I just give things away.
Because you won't let us give you any. All right, we'll
know.
talk about that. We'll work on that.
Awesome. All right. So before we get into the Singular Sensation and all that, I always want to get to know our guests a little bit better. So I'd like a 30-second bio. So who is Jeni in 30 seconds?
Oh my God. So you just asked an impersonator who she is. It depends on the day. No, so I'm originally from a small town and went to Sheridan College for musical theater, moved to Toronto, immediately started touring as an impressionist and moved into musical theater. But I always loved hosting shows. I did it in my hometown. I staged a festival and a talent show because they were crazy and let me do it because there's nothing else to do. So I've had designs for the stage for years. What else? So I started doing theater in Toronto. I started at Heart House doing the Canadian premiere of Reefer Madness, which was amazing. And then, I toured as Hannah Montana and Lady Gaga, the fake ones, and started getting into voice acting. I now am the voice for the Family Channel. And I'm also a vocal coach and I do some design work. I started doing work as a wig stylist and I direct as well. And I'm directing a new show. Well, it's not a new show. It's an old show, new for me directing in the new year. And I'm very passionate about working with people in a very humane, authentic way that's not based on what you've done, who you know, what you look like, what you've done in the past, but who are you and what do you bring now? Because I think we need more humanity in the world, period. I think that's everything. That was very inarticulately word saladed, but that's kind of perfect for me, actually, because that's very much
it was a little more than 30 seconds, but I'll allow it. Because if I did cut it at 30 seconds, it would have been and I'm Lady Gaga and Hannah Montana, and then they would just think you were that, because I'd have to cut it right after that.
So. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, that'd be okay too.
They might not be, but
they're not listening right now.
They're fine. That's what you think. They could be.
They could. That's true. They haven't told me they are, obviously, because I talk to them all the time. So let's take it back. Were you always into musical theater growing up, or is that something you discovered a little later in life?
Oh no, I was ever since I discovered Phantom of the Opera when I was, I think, in grade 1. And it was now we would call it a hyper fixation, but I was obsessed with it. I don't know what it was about it. I think it was the fact that Christine Daae had amazing hair. But Phantom was my first one. I made my mom buy my first communion dress a year early because I wanted to dress like Christine when we went to see it in Toronto, which was a Christmas present. But I always grew up around music, like Fred Penner, Sharon Lois and Bram. I was always right in front of the TV. I got so excited when Fred Penner sang The Cat Came Back. I think it was 3 that I started crying because I was so overwhelmed. Fast forward 30 years and he came to A Singular Sensation and sang The Cat Came Back, and I felt like I was 3 years old again. But it's always, music, performance, whether it was musical theater or children's entertainers, there was always music in my house and around. But just something about musical theater I've always felt connected to, just because of, I don't know, the invitation to become somebody else was always appealing. And then singing's the one constant thing that's been through my entire life. So I'm sure there's something deeply psychological about it, but in short, the answer is yes, always.
I think you missed the Canadian triumphant. If you mentioned Sharon Wilson Brand, Fred Penner, if you had mentioned Mr. Dress Up, you would have hit them all.
I saw him too. I did. He was there. Eric Nagler, Mr. Dress Up. Oh yeah, Truffles.
So many people in the world have no idea what we're talking about.
I
But that's
know.
okay. That's
Well,
okay.
you better learn. That's Canadian history right there. And I think I loved Truffles the puppet, who I ended up meeting the puppeteer.
Really?
She was a friend I met. It was his mom, because Truffles looked like my Popple, and I was like, oh, I know her. Any bit of familiarity in the world, I clung to, which I'm sure says something about me. But that's the brilliance of art. It's so subjective.
I'm always curious. I know you went into musical theater, obviously. We'll talk about that a little bit. Was there anything else you ever wanted to go into? I'm always curious if there's a profession that you go, if I didn't go into musical theater, I would have done this.
I applied for broadcasting because I did my co-op at the TV station, because I liked talking to people. That's why it was so cool about the pandemic when we took Singular online, which I'm sure we'll talk about, but just having conversations with people, I always enjoyed, and getting to kind of spotlight and celebrate other people, probably because, I don't know if it was because that's what I wanted. Like, I wanted to tell my story and share things, so I wanted to give other people the same opportunity. But in retrospect, I didn't realize until like lately, like design, like interior design or architecture, probably are close second and third. But music came naturally to me, and I think I was kind of a lazy kid, so I went with it because I was naturally talented. But I applied to broadcasting and I got in, but then Sheridan was like, broadcasting? Why do you want to do broadcasting? That's a very accurate impression, by the way.
Was that Rod?
That was Greg.
Oh, Greg.
I was like, because I'm good at it and I like it. But yeah, it was TV and radio broadcasting. Actually, my sister's works in radio. She's a radio producer and broadcaster as well. But yeah, like I think I could have built some like sick buildings if I had gone into that, which I guess I still could. But those are the top ones, but I would have had to have tried a bit harder, which I clearly was not interested in at the time.
So what years were you at Sheridan?
Rude. Just kidding. The early aughts.
So just after me then.
The early 2000s, yeah.
Yeah, because I graduated in 96 from Sheridan.
Okay, yeah, not too long after
not too long after.
I won't tell you the grade I was in 1996.
That's okay. You don't have to.
Irrelevant.
Trust me, I'm at York and they're all like 19 and 20. So I'm like their dad. So
I'm a very short person, so I just pretend I'm the same age. The program I did in that kind of incarnation of it, and the accreditation for it doesn't even exist anymore. Like, it's the whole other thing. And I was like, well, I don't know. That's a good thing I'm already working, because I don't know if it depended on the paperwork. I don't know what I'd be doing.
Yeah, I'd be curious if I could even get in now.
I can't even open that door.
Yeah, my dance would have held me out for sure. But oh well, that's okay. So let's talk a little bit about Singular Sensation. Right, what was the impetus to start that in the first place?
Well, Singular Sensation is actually part of like a dynasty of open mics in Toronto, dating back to like when it was at the Limelight, which was then Mysteriously Yours, which is now, it's called the Medley, which is like Young and Eglinton. And I think like Charlotte Moore was one of the hosts, and there was like a number of people. How I was introduced to it, it was called Curtains Down, hosted by the fabulous Jeni Burke. And that was at Statler's on Church Street. And then it moved because Statler's had this pattern of it would open, it would close, it would turn owners, and then it would turn back to Statler's. So everything kind of shifted every few years, because that's Church Street and that's real estate in Toronto. So I learned about it when Jeni was hosting, and then it changed ownership again at Statler's. And Jeni had moved on and has not stopped working in theater, which has been thrilling to watch. And the pianist, one of the pianists, Donovan Lenabbit, they asked him, like, we want to do the open mic again. Who should we get to host? He was like, why don't you ask this broad? She's, nuts. So I was like, yeah. And it felt like a real, honor to kind of pick up and bring the show back. So that's kind of how it happened. I can't take any credit for it in its infancy there. I mean, 12 years later, we've come a long way. And there was a moment where I remember making the conscious decision, this could be a gig or this could be like a vocation. And we could do something really special with it and make this, a hub for the community where we really like celebrate shows that are happening and connect people and make it a place where people know, if I go to this place, I can go by myself. I'll find people that I know. We've had people meet, date, get married, open shows together, build companies together. And it's been so cool. We have tours that would come in and hang out on their night off. One time we had Mufasa from The Lion King, and he just got up and sang and was super, they're the ones, the quiet ones that you're like, oh, you're in a, okay. And he got up and sang, and he asked me to sing with him. And I was like, oh, he's nervous. It's his first time. It's Mufasa from The Lion King. He opened his mouth to sing, and I was like, bleh. It was wild. And I think that really says something about the show, when you can be surprised and excited by your own show. And it was weekly for 7 years, which looking back is insane. I don't know how I did it. I was younger then. Yeah. And then we partnered with a lot of different theater companies because it started to kind of, the word of the show kind of got around, and we were associated with, we host a fun party, and we were brought in to do stuff with the Fringe and with Pride and different companies. We had casts come in from, anything from U of T to Musical Stage Company to Mervish. We give away tickets, which we still do. I buy a couple pairs of tickets every show, which is monthly now, to make it accessible, because that's kind of the goal, is to make it, an equal playing field. I like to say, when you walk in the door, everyone's kind of on the same level, whether you've been on Broadway or you've never sung on a stage before. Everybody's kind of just people in a place that love musical theater or the musical theater culture. Some people come every month that don't sing. They just come and watch, and it's amazing. And it's been really wild to kind of watch it in all its incarnations through like 12 years, which is crazy. And I actually really enjoyed putting kind of the history of the show together to send you, because it really gave me the opportunity to take stock of where we've come from and what we've done, which I think we can lose sight of, because it's such a, it's a competitive field, and it's really cutthroat, and we get caught up in the kind of race of it all, and we forget to look back at what we have done, because we're so focused on what we want to do or what we haven't done or what we're not booking or whatever. Because it is, it's competitive.
Yep.
Tough. So, we were talking earlier about taking the wins where you can get them. So we try to make Singular a win for people, and it seems to be working.
That's one of the problems with our businesses. We've turned it into a competitive thing when it honestly isn't, because you don't have control over. It's not like a sport game where you're actually playing against somebody, because if you and I are auditioning for the same part, we can only do what we can do, and because the outcome is decided by somebody else. Yeah. And it's unfortunate that we go, I got to beat this person. No, you don't beat that person. You just happen, for lack of better, you happen to fit at that moment. And
well, I think I agree with you. And I think a lot of it goes back to the training and the culture of theater schools, which I think is changing. Some of my friends and colleagues are now working within those institutions and really changing the approach. Because I remember, we went to the same school, and they would put you against each other from the beginning. They're like, look around you, only half of you will be here. And it's like, well, I got to be one of the ones that make it. I can't be one, And so like immediately you're kind of under that pressure cooker of needing to achieve. It's not welcome. We're going to teach you some things, learn what you can and whatever, which is now how I teach, because that's not how I was taught. And it's tough. It's tough. So I think it's a lot of that goes back to the training and the culture of theater schools, and they put you against each other, and then they put schools against each other. And when really we take it so seriously.
Yeah. Do they think about
People
what
must
we
think we're
actually
nuts.
do? Like,
Yeah. Oh, if we were to I just feel like a bunch of music theater people talking to like a firm of lawyers. It's like people's lives are at stake, or like a brain surgeon's like people's lives are at stake. We're like, I'm doing like this, and but that's, I mean, it's a sign that you're really passionate about what you do, and what you do is important. But I think we can lose sight of the fact that there has to be some fun in it. It's called a play, right? We have to remember that we're being paid to pretend at the end of the day, and you can only take it so seriously, because it'll drive you crazy, which is when you see people just get swallowed by ways of coping with the competitiveness. Or we could talk forever about the toxic culture of theater school and how it kind of bleeds into the industry. But I think there's a real change. There's been a real change for the past few years. And as I see my contemporaries, like I said, moving into those systems and kind of saying, no, I'm not doing it that way. I didn't like that being done to me. I want to do it differently. Which really gives me hope, and it makes me really excited for people that are coming in. And I directed like 2 shows with U of T. I did one this summer at a music camp that was like, I think they were 8 to 18, which is nuts. And I'm directing a show at St. Lawrence College in the new year. And I do private coaching as well. And I love working with young actors, because it's an opportunity to just empower them and fill them with confidence and the belief that like the world is theirs if they want it. And it's just about doing the best you can and accepting that and being proud of that, rather than, oh, I didn't get it. Oh, I didn't do it. It's like, I did this, and this is what, back to taking the wins.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And that's why I love being at York, I'm with Vanier College Productions, which is not a theater course or anything like that. It's open to anybody in the school, which makes it even more exciting, because you can get environmental studies students and business students, and they bring a whole different dynamic, and working with them. And I always tell them at the end, for all my shows with them, we all bow together. There is no one person that's separate, because you know what? We didn't invite the stage manager on stage. They did just as much, right? So we're all equal, treat everyone the same. And,
yeah. One can't exist without the other. It really is. And that's what I tell people. I do audition workshops and coachings. And I say, everybody is a part of a bigger machine, and every part is essential to the operation of it. We all need each other, and we need to work together. It's not about, there's no hierarchy. There is authority, but that's very different from, so I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you.
Well, let's go back to Singular Sensation. We kind of went off track, but you know what? That's okay. There's nothing wrong with taking a detour and taking a look at the sites. We get back on the road.
I have ADHD to the max, so I'm all over the place.
So you talked about going online for Singular Sensation. What was that like? We all experienced it. What was your story behind that? How did you deal with that?
Yeah, so we had just celebrated a year at Mandy's, or at the 120 Diner, excuse me. Now we're at Mandy's Bistro. The same owner, Mandy Good Handy, took us in when we were orphaned. Bless her heart. So I think what we went online, people were asking. Actually, it was my friend Derek Chu was like, so what are you planning to do with the show? And I was like, what show? What are you talking about? Like, I was like, I don't know. Because it hadn't occurred to me to do it online. And people were doing stuff online. I was like, no, people are good. They've got stuff. But then other people had started kind of asking. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know. Because it was such a delicate situation, right? We were all kind of so fragile because we had all lost so much. And it was, for me, it was about riding that line between, asking someone to sing a song from their basement. I know you should have been making your Stratford debut right now, but how about singing it from your childhood bedroom that you had to go, right? So God, it feels like so long ago at this point. So I wasn't really sure, and I was kind of resistant to it. And then I was like, all right, let's see. So I started, I looked at this software for StreamYard and tried to figure out how to make that work. And that was a long journey. But then we sort of mixed between some special guests singing, some people chatting, because I was like, you can't do an open mic the way you do live. It just doesn't translate, especially because we did one that was all signups and we wanted to sound check everyone to make sure it sounded good. And it took like 3 hours to sound check everybody. And I was like, okay, I can't do that again. It's too much, because you have to be mindful of your mental health too. And you can't lead if you can't live, right? So our first episode I was like, okay, cool. I've always wanted my own talk show. So let's see. And I brought on Derek Chua and Christopher Wilson and David Connolly, because they had all been, really contributing a lot. David was doing his Matinee to Z. Derek had been incredible with all of the CERB stuff, posting information and really guiding, because like theater people and legal documents, it's a mess.
Yeah.
And Chris was doing Big Girl and Friends. So we had a few chats and some people came and sang, and it was really cool because like we were getting people in the chat being like, that's my kid and he's stranded in Ontario and now we get to see him, which was very cool. And then the further we got, the more, because we're in it for a couple of weeks. Okay, we're in it for a month. Okay, this thing's never going to end. So it was constantly just feeling out the situation and trying to work with where people were at. So we didn't have like a format for a while. And so I was just asking people, I was like, do you feel like you're in a place to do this? Do you want to just chat? Because I thought it was really important to be human about it. We talked to Bruce Dow, who was like, I don't really feel like singing. I was like, great, let's chat. Yeah. Because I feel like, you're in your first year at Sheridan, you're like, what's happening? You've got Bruce Dow, who's been on Broadway in the same place. I think there's kind of a comfort in that. Yes. So sometimes we talked more than we had singers, and then it kind of turned into, we had different segments. We'd bring people on who were working on projects. We'd bring people on who, we did some yoga, we did some mindfulness, and then we started reaching out to my co-producer, Stefan Dixon, who's a choreographer, brought more dance in, because I think dance is kind of overlooked. We've got open mics for singing and play readings, but dance, like you've got dance class and that's kind of it. So he really brought dance into it, and we were able to share some projects from some choreographers from like LA and New York and across Canada. And so we started finding sort of a format that was sort of a talk show with performances. And then we started pre-recording them, because I was like, I'm just trying to stay on time. And he would get so stressed out because I just keep talking, because I was so into the conversation. So we really went through a lot of iterations, and then things kind of started opening up, and I was like, all right, I think we're good. And I think I was going back to the stage as well. So I was like, okay, I think our time is done. And we took a break, but it was a big learning experience. And I learned a lot as far as like video editing and graphic design, which I now do for one of the companies I work for. So I learned a lot, but I was really proud of the humanity that we brought to it, and that we really treated everyone with, respect and mindfulness. And we let people participate at their own speed without sort of expectation, which I feel like people associate with singular. It's kind of a come as you are, and that's more than enough. And I think that really translated in our work, and we got to stay in contact with people, and we would do pre-interviews, and sometimes we'd chat for like 2-3 hours. And that was our sort of social time as well. So it was kind of brilliant. And it kept me busy, so I never felt bored. And I would, I'd be at my kitchen table for 7 hours and not even realize it. But yeah, it kind of all happened pretty organically, which was, as inorganic as musical theater online is. But I think we did some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah. And I've said it many times and everything else. The pandemic was terrible and hit everybody. But there's things that, it was the great equalizer where, like you said, whether you're on Broadway or you're just starting, you're all in the same place trying to figure things out. And,
Yeah.
all the skills you had to learn, which forced us to learn. Because if the pandemic didn't happen, we wouldn't have learned any of this stuff. So many
Oh
editing
yeah.
for audio and video, and it brought the world together. We all started, like you said, choreographers in LA. Like I was doing interviews in China and in England and things like that. It
Yeah.
brought the world together. So
Yeah.
the pandemic, as terrible it was, helped us grow, I think, and expand our what is theater, musical theater.
Yeah. Well, and like it comes back again, and we've got to find the wins. And I think
Yep.
the pandemic was really good for me. It really pulled me out of a lane that was too fast for what I was able to do.
Yep.
Right. And I needed that break, and I was able to focus on, I think a lot of people were able to recognize that, oh, maybe I'm a little burnt out. Oh, maybe I need this time to rest. Or, oh, like we were given permission. I think we're so productivity driven
Yep.
that everyone got to just take a break for a second, which I think a lot of people needed. I definitely did. And I was able to kind of focus on myself as a person, and figure out who that was. And so I did a lot of really great personal work in that time. And yeah, I'll never say I was glad for it. I think that it's okay to find the good in even the worst situation, because that's what keeps us moving forward. Otherwise, it's like, that traumatic scene in the Neverending Story. You can't sit or you'll sink. For me anyway, I can't speak for anyone else. But yeah, it was awful, but I think we all found our way through in a way that the ways that we could.
Yeah, for sure. So for a singular sensation, let's talk about no offense to anybody, but one of probably the most important person, the pianist. Like the person at the piano is like, they are just incredible, because people are walking up with sheet music and say, here, play this. And I remember being in college, I brought them Not My Problem from Celebration, and it's written mostly in the bass clef, but then it jumps around, and they just looked at me and went, right.
Oh, I'll see that, and I'll meet you. My audition for singing for Sheridan, I did The Worst Pies in London from Sweeney Todd. Don't ask me. I was from a very small town and only knew Andrew Lloyd Webber until I had like a coach from the community theater in the next town. She's like, do this song. And Michael Mulrooney was my accompanist, I remember. And he was very tall and very intimidating. He's like, never bring this to an audition again. You're lucky I can play it. I was like, oh my God, what did I do? So yeah, I think we've all been there.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the pianists and who they might be, and some of them you've worked with.
So for the first 7 years, it was Donovan Lenavic, who also played a Thursday night show. So he was there. He was like the guy at Statler's. And then the last couple of months before we left Statler's, we had Justin McLean, who's done a lot of music directing at Hard House and a number of other companies. So when we moved to the diner, we took like a 6-month break because I needed a break. I was like, why don't we bring in a different pianist every month? So then it's an opportunity. I mean, it's kind of twofold. It's advantageous for me because it's a draw for people. But also it's an opportunity for people to sing for these like accompanists who are also music directors, right? Because everybody, it's a spider web, right? Like everybody's sort of connected in one way or another. And if someone's casting something, it's like, oh, do you know someone who can kind of do this? And so by offering a different accompanist every month, people that would come to sing had an opportunity to work with different people who have different styles. So they were able to learn on the fly, which is great for auditions because that's what it is. And I say to people, I say, come practice an audition song, film it for, social media. It's a great opportunity to just get your shit on film and practice, bring an audition cut, do it. You don't have to pay for it. And you get applause and support. So we've had Scott Christian, we've had Chris Sugiuchi, This month this month is special. So our show's on the 28th. It's also Mandy Goodhandy's birthday, and Mandy owns the venue, the last 2 venues we've been in. And she has a duo called The Lady and the Rambler. And her accompanist is Mateo Chavez Lewis, who's also an emerging Canadian musical theater composer. So they're doing the first half of the show, and Mandy's co-hosting with me. And then the second half, we have another new accompanist, David Kingsmill, who people may know as Rebecca Perry's other half. They have a duo together as well, and he's a musician on his own right. So they'll both be playing for the first time. Who else has played with us? Oh my gosh, it's been so long since we were at the other place.
And I'm putting you on the spot, and you're thinking, I'm gonna forget somebody. I don't want to forget somebody.
No,
I'm going to.
Thank you to every pianist who's played for us. But everybody's been great, and we have fun. And I always kind of open the show with a song that's like an impressive party piece, so people are like, "Ooh, that's really good," and then I act like a total idiot. I was like, I like to start, I just want people to feel comfortable, and when we had our first show after the pandemic, I was like, all right, let's be real, raise your hand if you feel anxious and a little nervous. Everybody raised their hand. I was like, all right, look around. Okay, we're good. Okay, cool. So we just all sort of made this agreement to just let's just take it slow, because that's the whole point of the show, is to just come. And it's not about, being perfect. It's not an audition, not a concert. It's just a chance to do what we love. So I've been very blessed with a lot of really great accompanists, and they somehow managed to play everything. The interesting thing is, I think there's such a culture for open mics like that in New York. So those pianists, like, they don't even have music. They don't even need music. Like Joshua, who used to play at the Broadway sessions with Ben Cameron, like I was like, I have music. He's like, no, I'm good. I was like, excuse you? Like, it was insane. So, someone like Chris Sugiuchi or Donovan, like, they play so many things like this. They just, the Rolodex inside their head is, but I do encourage people to bring your music, because it's really good practice to give your music to an accompanist.
Yes.
Talk through it and communicate, because it's a language that is essential to success in an audition. So while that's not an audition in itself, those are the skills that are going to transfer over when you do audition. And so if you get there, like, why not do something that's going to alleviate nerves and anxiety down the road, right? And someone did that for Halloween. She dressed as Wednesday Addams, brought in a song from the Addams Family. She's like, I have an audition next week. I was like, great, let's do it. And so she was able to go into her audition having done it all before.
Oh, I completely agree with you about bringing the music to the accompanist, because I think some people forget that the accompanist is just as much of the audition process, because you don't know, they have voices just as much. So, and
they're often the MD too, or the assistant or the associate.
Exactly.
And the directors, like, in the auditions I've done, I'm like, okay, so what do you think? How are they going to be to work with? Because how you are to work with can be just as important as what you can do as far as talent goes, right?
Even out to the hall, right? The people signing you, like,
as soon as you walk in the building.
Exactly. But people forget that, or don't know, or whatever.
Yeah. Hot tip, people. The moment you walk through the door, it's your choice. It's, but because you never know. You don't know who the casting assistant is, or who is, like, you don't know. So it just benefits to just be cool.
The musical theater world is so small, so big, but so small. Because I've talked to people and they're like, oh yeah, I know this person in Finland. I'm like, wait, what? The connections are ridiculous. So that's another tip. Treat everybody nice.
The only rule we have at Singular is just don't be a jerk. Be whatever you want. Be a zebra, be a person, be a Jeep. I don't care. Just don't be a jerk. Be cool. Just be nice. And we'll get along fine.
Very
it takes so much energy to be unpleasant. Who has the time?
So give us the who, what, when, where, and how of the next Singular Sensation.
Right. So the next Singular Sensation is Monday, November 28th. We have a new earlier start time because Jenny's getting old. No, we're in a new building, and we have there are like people that live above the bistro, whereas the diner, it was just an empty club. So we start at 8 o'clock now at Mandy's Bistro, which is the old Old Nick.
Mhm.
And that's 123 Danforth. So it's like just down the street and around the corner from Broadview Station, nice and accessible.
Yeah.
And the doors open at 7:30. Sign up goes out around 7:45. Show starts at 8. And it's pay what you can. And we want you there more than we want your money. So don't, I tell people, if you're a little flush one month and not the next, like, do what you can, right? I mean, yes, it means that the pianist doesn't have to hitchhike home, but that's not actually their problem. So, I just like to assure people, like, there's no judgment around what you can give, right? We want you there more than we want your money. I mean, I like your money, but that's not why we want you there. What else? And yeah, we have a full kitchen, there's service, we've got the bar open. Sign up. We've got 2 different acts this next show. Like I said, Mandy and I are going to co-host together. We may have a little duet in store, and there'll be some Lady and the Rambler goodness as well. And then other than that, it's just all open mic. It's party pieces the next show because it's Mandy's party. And I think it's going to be fun. It's been interesting. We relaunched in March, and then that was the same time that COVID decided to mutate into that transformer super contagious one. And we had a bit of an outbreak. We did everything we could. We did masks and mic covers and all the things. And so that was a little traumatic. So I waited to do it again. So it's been a journey because we're still sort of in that gray area of, is it safe? Is it not? So everybody's welcome. Come at your own comfort. But we're just, having a good time, easing back into it. No pressure, no expectation, and we're having fun. And this is our last show of 2022 because December, we do the 4th Monday of the month now, which is different. It used to be the 3rd. So the 4th Monday of December is Boxing Day. And the venue is closed. And I want holidays too.
Yes.
I think people need to take breaks. We need to have rest. We need to have resting time. So I'm just saying, I'm encouraging self-care over the holidays, and then we'll be back in January.
Very cool. And how do they find out online? Is there a website or a place that they can find?
We should have a website, shouldn't we? We're on Facebook, Singular Sensation, a musical theater open mic party. We're also on Instagram at _sensation. I keep saying I'm gonna do TikTok. I'm just
yeah, I hear
you. It's a little bit, I don't know. But exactly. I made my first TikTok video a couple days ago on my own account that I actually made for my mom's cat. Maybe one day we'll have a TikTok. Anyone listening wants to run our TikTok, you're welcome to. But yeah, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, and we update what's going on, and we, film and share what people are doing. We share like audition calls, different notices. We give away tickets. This month, we're giving away tickets to Alice in Wonderland at Soul Pepper. And we're going to be joined by some of the company members as guests as well. So come for that. You could win tickets. I'm not above bribing people. We want to make theater accessible, right? So last month we gave away Gay for Pay with Blake and Clay, with Daniel Krolik, and we also gave away tickets to the Buffy the Vampire Slayer musical special that was happening at Buddy's, and we gave away a Gabby Epstein vinyl. So we it's worth it. You could win stuff. Cool. If that motivates you. And if you don't have music for the song you want, like, email us. You can email us at singularsensationmondays@gmail.com, and we will do what we can to get you on stage.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, who knows when people will be listening to us? It could be in 2022, 23, 24. So, but we know it's every month for now. So
4th Monday of every month at Mandy's Bistro until,
well, it isn't.
We're not.
So it's somewhere else then. And in 13 years when they're still listening and you're still running it.
Yeah. Welcome to Singular Sensation. I'm still here.
You're doing all the 70 girls 70 and all the.
Oh no, I'm already like, I was like, but that's the thing too. I'm like, am I being greedy keeping it for so long? Because it kind of gets handed around. So it's like, that's something that rolls around in my head every now and then. It's like, should I share it? give it away, or keep it. So that'll be the conundrum of 2023. That's 2023 me's.
So stay tuned, people.
Yes, stay tuned. Who knows?
And Jeni, thank you so much for coming on and talking to us and introducing the listeners to Singular Sensation. And I'm going to try and come out on Monday. And I haven't been in, I don't remember the first time I went. It was forever ago.
And you're always welcome. And no one, and this is the thing, people are like, I'm sorry I haven't come. I'm like, it's here for you when you can make it, and when you can't, we just hope you're doing well, and there's no apologies needed, no questions asked. We're just happy to see you.
And that's the nice thing about theater is you do, when you do a show, you're intense, and at the end you're going away, but you're gonna end up back together at some point.
Oh, yes. It never will let us go.
No, it doesn't. So
it's a lifelong membership.
Exactly. Again, thank you so much, Jeni. And I look forward to attending.
Look forward to having you.
Awesome. All right. We were just speaking with Jeni Walls, the host for now, who knows when, until of Singular Sensation, the musical theater open mic party, which happens the fourth Monday of every month here in Toronto. Tune in next week as I'll be speaking with another guest or guests about their life, love, and passion that is musical theater. I am your host, as always, Jean-Paul Jovanov. And until next time, I'll see you when I see you.